You have been looking at the same map of the world your whole life. It was on the wall of your classroom. It is inside your phone. It feels like one of the most solid, objective facts you own. A simple picture of how the world actually is. It is lying to you. Every flat map of the world is lying to you. And the strangest part is that it has to. Start with the problem that makes the lie unavoidable. The Earth is a sphere. A map is flat. And it turns out you cannot turn the surface of a sphere into a flat rectangle without stretching, tearing, or squashing it somewhere. This is not a matter of clever design, it is a hard mathematical fact, proven by the great mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss in a result so important he gave it a grand name, the Theorema Egregium, the remarkable theorem. It shows that a curved surface like a globe has a kind of built-in geometry that simply cannot be copied onto a flat plane without distortion. You can feel this yourself with an orange. Peel it, and try to press the peel flat on a table. It cannot be done. The peel cracks and tears because the round surface refuses to lie flat. The skin of the Earth behaves the same way, so every mapmaker in history has faced the same impossible choice. You cannot keep everything true at once. You must decide what to lie about, shapes or sizes or distances or directions. You get to keep some, and you must sacrifice the rest. Now meet the lie you have been staring at your entire life. The most famous world map was created in 1569 by a Flemish mapmaker named Gerardus Mercator, and Mercator was not trying to deceive anyone. He was solving a specific, brilliant problem. He wanted to help sailors. On his map, a straight line is a constant compass bearing, which meant a navigator could draw a straight line from port to port and simply follow that heading across the ocean. For sailing across the open sea, it was a masterpiece. It is one of the reasons it spread across the world and ended up on your classroom wall. But to perform that trick, Mercator had to make a brutal sacrifice. He preserved shapes and directions, and to do it he wrecked the sizes. On his map, the closer a landmass sits to the poles, the more it gets stretched and inflated, ballooning far larger than it really is. And almost nobody who grew up with that map ever realized just how badly it warps your sense of the world. Here is the example that breaks people's brains. Look at Greenland on a Mercator map. It appears roughly the size of the entire continent of Africa. They look comparable, like equals. Now look at the truth. Africa is about 14 times larger than Greenland. 14 times. You could fit Greenland into Africa 14 times over and still have room to spare. The map you trusted shrank Africa, the second largest continent on the planet, until it looked like a pier of a single large island, and Greenland is not alone. On that map, Alaska looks enormous, as big as a large chunk of the lower United States, when in reality it is far smaller. Canada and Russia sprawl across the top of the world, bloated and dominant. Scandinavian countries look much larger than they are. Meanwhile, everything near the equator, almost all of Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, the home of most of humanity, gets quietly squeezed down, made to look smaller and less significant than it truly is. Stop and think about what that does to a mind. For generations, children grew up staring at a picture where the wealthy nations of the North loomed huge, and the nations near the equator looked small. People absorb that picture without ever questioning it. And some argue it quietly shaped how the whole world was perceived, which places felt big and important, and which felt minor. A distortion born from a sailing tool became, without anyone deciding it, a distortion in how people imagined the entire planet. This is exactly why other mapmakers fought back. In the 20th century, a man named Arno Peters loudly promoted a different map, one built to keep the sizes of countries true to reality. On his style of map, Africa suddenly appears as the giant it actually is, and the northern countries shrink down to their honest proportions. It set off a genuine controversy in the world of mapmaking. But here's the catch. The thing that brings us right back to Gauss and the orange peel. The equal area map is not the true map either, because there is no true map. To make the sizes honest, it had to twist the shapes. On it, the continents look stretched and smeared, pulled out of their familiar forms. It fixed one lie by telling another. That is the iron law of flattening a sphere. Every map is a different set of compromises. Every map keeps some things honest by lying about the rest. Mapmakers know this so well that they invented dozens of projections, each one a different bargain, including famous compromises like the one designed by the cartographer Arthur Robinson, which tries to make nothing perfect but everything look reasonable. So which map is right? None of them. That is the point. The question is not which map is true. The question is, what is this map for, and what did it choose to lie about to do its job? And do not think this is ancient history. The map inside your phone, the one you use to navigate your own city, is based on a version of Mercator, the same 500-year-old compromise chosen for the same reason, because it is excellent for the local navigation you do every day. When you zoom in on your own street, the distortion barely matters. But that familiar world view, with its bloated poles and shrunken equator, is still quietly sitting in your pocket, still shaping the picture in your head. Once you start checking the real sizes, the familiar map falls apart in your hands. Africa is so vast that you could fit the United States, China, India, and most of Europe inside its outline all at once with room to spare, and yet on the Mercator map, none of that is obvious. Russia, which looks like a continent-swallowing giant sprawled across the top of the world, shrinks dramatically the moment you switch to an honest equal area view. The mental ranking of big and small that you have carried since childhood is in large part an artifact of one mapmaker's 500-year-old compromise for sailors. And size is not the only quiet lie. Look at which way the map points. North is on top. It feels like a law of nature, but it is not. In space, there is no up and no down. There is no cosmic reason the map could not be drawn with the south on top. And in fact, such maps exist. And they look deeply wrong to most people purely because we are not used to them. The decision to put north at the top was a human convention, and once it's set, it quietly trained billions of people to picture the whole planet a certain way, with some places naturally on top and others naturally at the bottom. Then there is the question of what sits in the center. The map on your wall probably puts Europe and Africa in the middle, splitting the Pacific Ocean and shoving the Americas to one side and Asia to the other. But a map made in another part of the world will place that part in the center instead. There is no true center of a globe. Wherever you put it is a choice, and that choice quietly tells you what the mapmaker considered the middle of the world. Every map has a point of view, a place it decided to stand. None of them is the view from nowhere. This is why the only fully honest map is the one you cannot conveniently use. A globe lies about nothing, because it keeps the round shape of the round Earth. But you cannot fold a globe into your pocket or zoom in on a single street or print it in a book, so we accept the lie of flatness in exchange for usefulness every single time. The map is not a betrayal of the truth. It is a deal we strike with it. It is worth knowing why the Mercator lie of all the possible lies is the one that ended up in your pocket. When digital maps were built for the web, engineers needed a projection that was simple to chop into neat square tiles that you could zoom into smoothly and that kept the shapes of streets and buildings locally accurate, so a right angle on the ground looked like a right angle on screen. Mercator does exactly that. Its great weakness, wildly wrong sizes at the global scale, simply does not matter when you are looking at a few city blocks. So the same compromise Mercator made for sailors in 1569 turned out to be perfect for the navigation you do on your phone in the 21st century. The lie survived 500 years because it kept being useful, just for completely different reasons. And maps have never been only tools. They have always been arguments about power. For centuries, empires drew maps that placed themselves proudly at the center and rendered their territories in commanding colors, teaching everyone who saw them where the important parts of the world supposedly were. A map can flatter a nation, erase a people, or quietly justify a border. To draw the world is to make a claim about it. That is why the seemingly dry question of which projection to hang on a classroom wall has, more than once, turned into a genuine political fight. So look again at that map you have known your whole life. It is not a window onto the world. It is an argument about the world, a single set of choices about what to keep true and what to sacrifice. It was useful. It was even brilliant for what it was built to do. But it was never neutral, and it was never the whole truth. You have been looking at the same map of the world your whole life and trusting it completely. Now you know the secret every mapmaker has always known. There is no honest flat map. There never was. The only real map of the world is the one you cannot hang on a wall, the round one, spinning quietly in the dark, refusing to lie flat.